Maybe just give us just a brief refresher course on leptin, the
Yeah,
hormone leptin produced
yeah,
by the fat cells, the effects on the brain, what it,
right,
its metabolic effects. Bring us, maybe just give us
yeah,
an overview of that, if you would.
absolutely. It's in the body already. Very few people would take it, and there maybe 5% are actually born deficient in it. But it's about getting the hypothalamus, and they know there are other receptors. There's some in the hippocampus, but they think there might even be receptors in the gut because there's a lot of gut activity.
Mm.
I think they're all over the place, but they're still discovering things about it. It's relatively new. And you can turn those on in a handful of days, literally. And it is like a switch. It is literally like taking the magnet away from the compass so that it can do its job again. And its job is with every system in the body. So you can search leptin and the thyroid, leptin and the adrenals or cortisol, leptin in the thymus. You can search leptin in cancer, leptin in autoimmune, leptin in the microbiome. So it has huge impact on the composition of the gut. And in fact, there were more of the slimness bacteria. I don't even want to say the name of the slimness bacteria because it's so ridiculous. Firmicutes, maybe I'm saying that wrong, but still, that's pretty funny. And then Bacteroidetes, which is the obesity one, those bacteria go down. It's really interesting. And the autonomic, like I said, the autonomic nervous system, deep sleep, deep wave sleep, IBS, things like that. And if I happen to mention anything that I've seen, it's pure coincidence because, of course, we're not allowed to cure. But I've seen miracles in everything, in every prostate cancer situation, and in MS and lupus and hepatitis C, deadly vasculitis where people had only days to live. Just incredible things that leptin can do once it's turned on.
Now, how come, well, I mean, you and I know the answer, but describe to the viewers why people are prone to leptin resistance. People have heard of insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Just kind of, give us the overview on the leptin resistance problem.
The threshold of a blood sugar spike that would take us out of insulin resistance, you will even go out of leptin resistance first. So you lose your leptin sensitivity even before, and therefore almost nobody has leptin sensitivity, at least in this country. And of course, we're exporting our causes for that resistance to other countries. So it's coming there, but maybe a generation behind. And each generation that we're exposed to things like high fructose corn syrup, but it's not just the obvious ones, of course, it's natural sugars. And we become, the more metabolically challenged we become, eating fruits and even their supplement ingredients. And it was a shock to me to see people fall out of leptin sensitivity with something as small as an alcohol tincture. And so we can fall out of it easily. And everybody has an individual threshold at which they would reestablish leptin and insulin sensitivity. And so they can kind of calibrate a bit what they eat. But it's much more similar among people than I thought, because at first I thought, okay, I can help people like I was with eating disorders and weight. And then I was working with Olympic athletes and very slim, Oscar winning actresses and Mets player and Olympian. And they had, and fitness professionals, one of whom had to part ways with his trainer because there's such a fast change, a hormonal change and a freeing up of testosterone, that muscle to fat ratio change is independent of exercise. And this particular Canadian fitness model's trainer thought he was on steroids and would not believe otherwise. And I worked with someone from The Biggest Loser, a trainer, season 3, and she had a 6-pound muscle gain in under 2 months. And it's not even just known to be possible in exercise physiology. And at the same time, it brought back her period after she was pushed into early menopause by a removal of her adrenal glands for Cushing's. And her eating disorder was gone, and she was eating 3 meals instead of just brushing her teeth instead of eating, and working out not even once a day instead of working out 3 times a day, thinking that could save her career, and nothing could. And she did this 18 pounds fat down, 6 pounds of muscle up under 2 months. And I wasn't like, wow, because I just see it all the time. And so it's dietary. The answer is dietary. Right. And of course, that leads us to that unpatentable reason why this doesn't get any airtime. Not good.
Yeah, so basically, but it's like a vicious cycle, right? Someone's overweight, they develop leptin resistance. So they're craving the bad foods, they're craving too many foods, their mood's off, their energy, their fat burning that's occurring. So obviously, the only way to auto-correct that is through what you're recommending with dietary approaches.
And even underweight. So leptin is a regulator. And so I work with a lot of restrictors and anorexics. And one of the most politically incorrect things you could say to an anorexic is, did you know that you're just like totally a fat storing machine? And they'll go, what? And I'll say, do you want to know how to be a fat burning machine? You eat fat in the absence of any blood sugar spike, and you get back your leptin sensitivity. And it's amazing because hormonally they get fixed, they get their periods back, and then the kind of fat that they gain, unlike the kind of fat they gain at the award-winning eating disorder clinics who serve them 11 servings of grain and give them extra credit if they eat a hot fudge sundae and drug them 4 ways and then they gain weight. It's a totally different kind of weight too. And so whether overweight or underweight, and I've worked with underweight, hopelessly underweight men who would get on a bike and do a little exercise and gain and lose another 10 pounds. And one described himself as a chicken wing, and he could not gain weight in 1 year's time, pure muscle and bone. And when you use calorie restriction to lose weight, you'll lose muscle. If you become leptin sensitive, you will never lose muscle. In fact, you're going to gain bone because you're not using the sugar from the protein in your bones at night to keep your blood sugar levels up, because it's a myth that we don't use our primary fuel during the night, because we do.
So yeah, compare what, and we're going to talk more about the kind of programs you offer in your books and your programs, but maybe give us a brief comparison of what you're doing nutritionally with people, kind of the basics compared to, the popular keto diet, paleo diet, fasting. Give us maybe kind of a comparison there.
Sure. The comparison is that this is self-calibrated by symptom. It's not numbers based. Every number I've ever seen, I feel sad. How many carbs even are in, keto and even leptin approaches. There are other books written on leptin, including, some by the foremost experts. And the dietary application is guessing, because you can't know what works until you actually work with humans. And they're not. They're working on in a clinical way. And even, Dr. Jason Fung said to me, wow, we haven't been able to make happen outside of a lab what you've had going on for 30 years. And it's so, it's different in that it's symptom based and it's very empowering. So the typical symptoms is your appetite goes way down, your energy is even, no matter what. I don't care if you just got off a coffee, which you have to, and we can discuss that, but it's an even energy, and your sleep suddenly deepens and your head is clear even in the morning. And then everybody has their own symptoms. If someone has seizures or headache, that's done. They will never have any. And your rashes start to go away, and immediately your pain of all kinds is down. And so everybody had their reflux. Maybe reflux is and for men, they'll say, okay, I can urinate in 30 seconds instead of 15 minutes. And so it's symptom based. Another difference, of course, we're not going to overdo protein, because excess protein, as we just mentioned, is going to spike blood sugar levels and have impact on leptin and insulin, and also set off a pathway that signals the body for cell replication, which is why getting big as a bodybuilder is not very healthy for you. But the protein and then just the culinary innovation of what I do is amazing. So there is much more variety, even though you're more biochemically strict, it's fair to say, if you're going for leptin sensitivity.
So basically, when you get people's leptin, let's say, resistance balanced out or corrected, the natural healthy desire for food, healthier foods, the amount of food, that will auto-correct. You don't have to get into fancy calculations and calories and percent of fats, carbs, proteins, etc. Would that be a good summary?
Look at calories. I don't even want people to weigh themselves. You can look, at ingredients for, extra sugars, but bear in mind, even beans are going to spike the blood sugar of a metabolically challenged person. So you definitely want to look at those things, but the appetite, the willpower aspect is done. It is so strong, the leptin signal. The nature of your hunger, once you're leptin sensitive, is different. You're no longer hungry because of a blood sugar low, which I felt ravenous for 12 years with my eating disorder, but I don't think I was truly hungry or in need of fuel for one moment. It's because basically my desire for what I was eating was to counteract the over secretion of insulin that was taking down my blood sugar, so you're off the roller coaster, you're even, and the nature of your satiety is stunning. So I would have, a mother-daughter with an eating disorder pointing at the cake I just made them without any flour or grain and saying, we don't know why we don't want more of that. I mean, it was delicious to them. I have many tears where people were in the middle of a piece of my cheesecake and all of a sudden they've got tears and they can't believe they don't want any more. It's stunning. And so that's really the most incredible thing, is the no more need for willpower. And that only leptin can do that. You'll think you feel that in and out with keto, but you're going to eventually exploit enough things and not have that kind of a signal.
What about the anti-aging effects? I mean, people are always pretty astounded when they see your pictures over time. Obviously, most people, as time goes on, you can see the aging process, which, by the way, is one of the known side effects of high protein diets. People tend to age faster. But tell us about that, the anti-aging effects that you've seen with yourself and with others.
Yep. Well, you can look up leptin and mitochondria, leptin and AMPK and autophagy, getting rid of our dead, and useless proteins. And all of these things that, the more prominent fasting biohackers are going for. And that mTOR suppression is a really big thing in longevity. You can get it without any moments of starvation and without the potential harm to your thyroid and your thymus gland and your reproductive capacity, and also the risk of starting an eating disorder. And they show, for example, with fasting in rodents, that the next meal can become more drug-like from a dopamine perspective. And also there's rebound eating. And so, there are risks to the fasting and the calorie restriction just in general. You don't live the most, in my view, balanced, energetic, deep sleeping, because in calorie restriction, the expert I mentioned earlier believes that the reason that there's such good science, not great science, but the science that is there, he thinks, is because the body's getting a break from bad food. But calorie restriction, just to say calorie restriction, it's not done in the wild. Apes don't do it the way that humans do it, and they eat better things than maybe a person would who's trying to restrict calories. So you're looking at potential nutrient deprivation in addition to those other things that I mentioned.
Yeah, I find with the average patient in the clinic, it's just not realistic to do fasting programs. They have to work, they're looking after their family. It's just, a lot of people, it's just not practical.
And it also can interfere with sleep and just nutrient deprivation equals anxiety in most people. And if you don't look at the fat thing, and I'm not talking about just what people think of as good fats, olive oil and coconut oil, virgin coconut oil. Okay, there's more good fats than that. And saturated fat from grass-fed animals is as good as it can get. And it's going to raise your HDL more directly and successfully than exercise and those other things. And, that's another can of worms, is that lipid hypothesis,
Yeah. Have you found a lot of your followers look at you as a kind of like an anti-aging guru, so to speak? Do you find a lot of the people who are following you, are they using your program for its anti-aging purposes?
Not most of them. I think early on, I think so. And I called my book The Truth About Beauty because I didn't come into this with this background. So, and the whole Jane Goodall of leptin thing, Jane Goodall lived with the apes, but she didn't have a PhD, and she, didn't have that, but she just had the temperament. And I had also this experience of having done this for myself and then starting to see it happen, and women would drag their men to these cruises, beauty cruises that I would do. And they'd come out of the woodwork with their glucometer with little tears in their eyes saying, oh my gosh, this is the lowest my blood. I'm like, I knew it, I know. And there's just no blood pressure issue anymore. And so as time goes on, there are so many doctors recommending that most of my patients are coming from neurologists and fertility clinics and functional medicine and stem cell doctors and dentists